Welcome to day 2 of Devo Discussion. Got something for you today. Today, I have a few silver coins. Now, these silver coins are about an ounce apiece, but I want to use them to illustrate something that you guys are going to be reading about in your text today. In your text today, there is a master who has a whole bunch of servants who are working for him. Now, the thing we have to understand is back in that day, if you got captured in war, if you got kidnapped, sometimes you were born into it, there were all sorts of ways that you could become a slave. Typically, your master would buy you. You might be apprenticeship to him for a while. You might just be his property. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different types of slaves. In fact, in Roman society, most people apparently were slaves. And so in this story, we have a group of servants, which is just another way of saying slaves. And you have a group of servants who are being charged with a little bit of responsibility by their master. Now, this brings up a concept I want you to understand. It's a concept called stewardship. Now, the idea of stewardship means you are in charge of something, but you don't actually have the permission to change anything about it. You're responsible for the upkeep, but you can't just change it to whatever you like. I would compare it to, let's say you have a house, and somebody says, I want you to take care of my house for me. You're supposed to, and you're allowed to take out the trash. If you accidentally chip the paint, then you'd be responsible for repainting that section of the wall, but getting it as close to the original paint job as possible. Those are the type of things. It's maintenance things. It's maintaining it in the state the master left it. But if I gave you a house, implicit in giving you that house is the ability to change anything in it that you want. What this master did is he left his slaves in charge, and he said, you are going to be stewards of some of my resources. Now, when we read this, it's kind of hard to understand in our language because when we think of someone giving them a talent, we have no concept of what a talent was. So to understand it, I want to take a single coin. Now, this is a single coin of silver. It's worth anywhere between 20 and 30 bucks right now. This single coin of silver weighs about an ounce. A talent would have weighed considerably more. We're talking pounds, multiple pounds, like to the tune of about 72 pounds. Okay, so it's a lot, especially if it was gold. I mean, it would be worth millions of dollars. Back in that day, if you worked a day's wage, they would pay you what's called a penny or a denarius, but the Bible typically translates it penny. So if you were given a day's wage, you were given a denarius. A talent was 6,000 days' wages. And so as we talk about this master, and as we talk about what he is entrusting to his servants, he is entrusting a vast, vast amount of resources. And he doesn't come right out and say it at the beginning of the story, but we know, based on the ending, they were supposed to do something with it. Now, have you ever noticed that throughout the Bible, in Jesus' parables, he doesn't actually talk about the resources a whole lot? He mentions them in passing, he talks about them. But you ever notice, like the 10 virgins, the parable we read yesterday, it never talked about how much it cost for them to actually keep their lanterns burning. In fact, they went out and they bought oil, and it didn't talk about how much it cost, didn't talk about them having to scrounge up the money. It was just assumed they had the resources to do it. You look throughout the other parables, it's not stressing this idea of having to earn the money to do what he asked you to do. If the master has asked you to do something, he is expected to give you the resources to do it. I think that's a really, really important fact that we need to understand. Because as we go through these parables and as we live our life, God is asking us something. He is asking us to do something. But he's also providing the resources to do it. And so as you guys study the devotions today, as you think about how much a talent is worth, as you think about how much money that master was giving to his servants, I want to tie it around to something that you might understand. Last year in teen camp, we studied out this concept of the URA. We said you needed to understand the passage, you need to remember the passage, and then you need to apply the passage. And so the question naturally rose every time last year, how do you apply this to your life? And so that's going to be the question I start off with before you even go read the passage. How does this talk about talents apply to you? Think about it. Go do the reading of the passage. Then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss it. All right. You guys are back, which means you have hopefully read the passage. Now, again, Jesus is talking about the kingdom of heaven. He's talking about his return. He's talking about these heavenly concepts from an earthly perspective and trying to help them understand what's going on. And the Bible talks about these guys and says, hey, he gave them a specific amount based on their ability. He wasn't going to give the 1-talent man 5-talent job because he couldn't handle it. The same with the 2-talent man. And so he's giving them talents, giving them wealth according to their ability, and they're expected to do something with it. And what are they doing with it? What are the resources that you have? What are the resources that God has laid into your life? I mean, could it be that you're a compassionate person? You're very tender, you're very loving of other people. That is a talent. That is a skill, that is an ability, that is a personality trait. That is very, very valuable. You could be someone who you make money, no problem. You could be someone who has a personality that is just super convincing. I don't know what your specific talent is, but God has given you wealth, and he's given it to you according to your measure. Now here's what I want you to think about. Here are the questions I want you to ask. How are you using those talents for the Lord? I mean, we talked about it. We said he gave a talent to one man. And if we figure out the financial value of that, I mean, we're talking years upon years upon years of wages. 6,000 days' wages. That's what a talent was. That's a lot of money. And so the 5-talent guy, he went and made a ton. The 2-talent guy went and made a ton. But the 1-talent guy did absolutely nothing with it. Where are you in that spectrum? What are the talents that you have? And so as you go through virtual camp today, I want you to think about it. What are the talents that God has given you? And are you using them to glorify God? Those are the 2 questions I want you to answer. What are the talents? And are you using them to glorify God? Guys, I hope you have a really good week at camp. I hope you have fun. I hope you learn a lot of things. But I hope you learn a little bit about yourself to identify what God has done for you and how you can do the stuff back for him. I will see you tomorrow for day 3 of Devo Discussion.